Being poised on the precipice for what has seemed like an eternity, a new magical powder has manifested in my world. I believe this rather obscure little Tecal morsel will catch the attention of many during the times to come. The molecule N,5-methoxy-diisopropyltryptamine or 5-MeO-DIPT is quite unique in its properties, and I shall endeavor to describe my first explorations. I've recently had the opportunity to sample it twice. The first time was with a reported dosage of 10 to 12 mg, but it was in a carrier powder, so I had no way of verifying the weight for myself. I ingested the powder orally on an empty system and noted effects beginning within 45 minutes. A slight alteration of color along the lines of a lysergic compound were noted, along with a general feeling of heightened awareness and a unique energy frequency. As it progressed along, I had a vague sense of discomfort in my solar plexus area that reminded me of my initial explorations with 2CB. I went for a walk with my girlfriend and found the physical activity activated things even more, and I found myself enjoying the slight alteration and communication. When we returned, we relaxed in bed and played around with each other while listening to music. The auditory world didn't seem enhanced or distorted much and was certainly not the focus of this material. Since we had read about the possible sexual applications of this one, and we were excited to put it to the test. Off with those panties, boy. Lo and behold, my dick was very unresponsive to sexual stimulation. It took quite some time before we were able to get it hard. This has happened on several journeys with other materials such as L. We laughed and laughed together, as we had been hyping this stuff up to be super Viagra. In a sense, it seemed to be the psychosomatic discomfort that was distracting me from sexual expression. In many ways it felt like there was something I was missing, like I just hadn't adjusted to things and figured out the controls yet. After we finally managed to get the jade stock in flowering form, the sex was unusually charged and visual. I found myself able to maintain just below peak very easily, and it brought forth the animal in me very powerfully. In short, I fucked the hell out the doodlebug. After a major orgasm, I noticed how incredible charged I felt, quite the opposite of my usual post-seed stupor. I jumped up and began making dinner while dancing about to the music. Food was good, and as things wound down I found myself feeling very clear and ironically even more psychedelic when it wore off. Laying in bed, I remember saying to myself, there is much more to this than meets the eye. Several months passed by and finally got the opportunity to sample the 5-MeO-DIPT again. This time with a known purity and dosage. I took 10 mg on an empty system and met up with some friends of mine for a steep trek into the wilderness in search of some mysterious rock cliffs. The same unique feeling tone began to manifest, like a nice little buzz without any speedy element to it. Social skills were good, it made me open and responsive, although a bit on the spacey side. This is something I could maintain full functionality with and pretty much enjoy in any context. A recreational buzz for the psychedelically inclined. Nothing serious at all here, Folex. Just good, clean, unique alteration. This time I noticed none of the psychosomatic discomfort in my solar plexus, and it seemed that my body and psyche were adjusting well to the new medicine. I frequently find that a break-in period is required for new substances, much like is required for breaking in a new car. Once my receptors get properly tuned in, I can begin to really explore and enjoy the driving process. After seeing where I was with it, I decided to offer some to my friend who has limited drug experience. He was curious to try, and I thought it would be interesting to see what kind of response he would have. I gave him a dose of 8 mg. He is a big guy, and after an hour he reported a pleasant stoning effect. We did manage to get in a few interesting shots of insight as we evaluated his tobacco habit, or rather I should say his addiction to being stressed about his addiction. The methoxy put him in just the right space to see things from a different angle. 5 hours later, on the tail end of the trip, I returned to luscious bed where the doodlebug awaited my arrival. We both took some GHB and enjoyed rubbing our naked bodies together. This time the dog was right on cue and we enjoyed a very powerful sex session. Similar to the first time, stimulation threshold was much higher, which enabled me to completely ravage the doodle. It was intense and thoroughly satisfying for the both of us. The GHB added a wonderful wash of relaxation and complemented the buzz of the tryptamine very well. I found myself unable to sleep and meditating in bed for many hours into the night. The after effects were filled with clear hypnagogic imagery. As I meditated on the nature of the drug, a name popped into my mind. The Foxy Methoxy, or Foxy, for short, seems to accurately convey the message. And so it is. The Foxy Methoxy is now a part of my ever-expanding treasure chest. I suspect that higher levels are not going to be advantageous with this material, but I will most certainly put this to the test. I have a feeling that it would progress in a sloppy manner and be uncomfortable in the higher ranges. I have received a report from a friend who had taken an unknown quantity estimated to be in the 20 to 30 mg range, and he reported a very unpleasant experience. I would imagine that in its prime the Foxy Methoxy is just what it is. A nice little delic buzz for any occasion. May you find yourself foxy.